Yes, so you know that you should use the compute nodes unless you just run some very, very short tests. But if you want to work more interactively, like developing code, testing some code and such, and then you should start an interactive session. So then you have the possibility to use the compute nodes, but at the same time have the interaction with your program in real time. Yes. Otherwise, if you're running scripts, then you can instead start this batch job if the script is ready to run. So for your real run with your program that handles speed data maybe, or will run for a long time, then you can use a batch instead. So one way to work interactively is to use what we mentioned before, the Jupyter notebook, actually. But you can also use the IPython, for instance. You could also run a script, but you make changes as you see that there are some errors, and you do the development there by going back and forth between your shell where you run the script and an editor where you have your script, where you can edit. So here's some warning. So do note that it is not real interactivity as you probably mean it at HPC2N, as you will have to run it as a Python script instead, or by starting Python and giving commands inside it. And the reason for that is that you are not actually logged into the compute nodes, but on the login node still. You only see the output from the commands you run, basically. But more about notebooks on HPC2N, you can read it. I also pointed at this extra reading for UPPMAX. So what can you do then if you want to run interactively? Well, you allocate resources like, basically in the same way as you do these batch scripts. But you can do this in the command line like this. So at UPPMAX, you use the interactive command, which is basically a wrapper around this salloc, which is used at the HPC2N. At UPPMAX, you should use the interactive because that will actually add some environmental variables which are important for it to work at UPPMAX. So you should really use interactive instead of salloc. Yes, so what you do, interactive, then you define the number of cores you want to use, and the time limit, and the project number. So you can do this in the command line like this. And yes, so we can have an example here. You can type along here if you want to. So right now I'm in UPPMAX. I'm actually now in the Git repository that we cloned before. So right now I'm in exercises, examples, where we have some programs that we will test later on. But it doesn't matter really where we are, but I'm here. I will start this session by interactive, and I can actually copy paste everything in this because what is out there is just these lines. So it will ignore this text, which is the output from our command. So we try this. I now will run on 4 cores and for 10 minutes. And when this is done, it will load this Python 395. Actually, since we are so many people, I will change to just 1 core, and you might do so as well, so that we don't have to wait so long. Note here also that I use the dev core partition, which means that we don't have to be in the queue for so long because we will just do some tests. So dev core means that you can book a session for up to 1 hour or less. And now it's about to start. We'll see. Yes. So here is our interactive session. And I can see that we are on, at least I am on node number 483, which is one of the compute nodes. Maybe you remember that before it was written Rackham 2 or Rackham 5, something like that. But now we are on the compute node R483. So we are actually physically now on this compute node on UPPMAX. So I can try now to, well, first we do this. So what I have to do is to load my Python again here, because in this new interactive session, this is a complete new environment. So we have to load our modules that we need. And that could be good because then you are forced to know what you're doing so that you're not using a wrong version. You really have to think that, okay, I should use 395. And so we can try this as run. So what we do now is that we run this command via slurm, basically, and this command hostname. So it tells us that we are at 483. If I had done this for 4 cores, it would show up 4 times because Slurm had recognized that we have 4 cores available, and then the program will be run 4 times, one for each core, basically. For HPC2N, the srun command will also show this. And if I now do host name like this, yes, it will only run once. But if I run only host name at HPC, what would happen then? Could you answer, Pedro or Birgitte? Will it show the login node?
It will show the login node.
Yes, precisely. So that's the difference. Yeah. But using srun will mean that the Slurm runs it on the computers.
Yeah, can I add something?
Yes, do that.
Yes, this interactive essentially according to my understanding, is doing a SSH to the computing node, yeah?
Mhm.
While salloc is doing maybe a lightweight SSH. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yes. Then we have two programs here, add to and sum to args. And I think these should be already available. Yes, so here we have that one, and we have the add to here. Yes. So let's just run this. And this will be the same for HPC2N and UPPMAX. So now I run, I let slurm run with srun, python sum 2 args .py and 3 4. And I copy it and paste. And okay, so I have now just one core to use, but this will do this. Actually, to show, I will do this again, but with 2 cores to save some space. Yes, and this is another example. And it runs 4 times because in this case, we allocated 4 cores. Yes. So when you're finished, you can do exit, and then you go out from your interactive session. And I can just do again what we did. We do this, and I can test this S1 hostname, and you see that it runs twice. If I only run hostname, it will only run once, because then you just use a system command in the ordinary way. And if we run this no. There it is. Yes, you see that it does it twice in this case. Now I will do an exit, and I'm back at the Rackham 4. And the same for HPC2N. Jupyter I mentioned, there is a way to run Jupyter on UPPMAX at the compute nodes, and it is actually possible to do a so-called SSH tunneling, so that you are able to use your own local web browser to run your Jupyter on the compute nodes. So more about that you can find here in the extra reading. We don't have any time to look that through, though.
Maybe we should mention that at HPC2N, you have to run within HPC2N's domain
Yes.
to use a browser. So you will do it either through ThinLink or something like that.
Yeah. The key points is that you start an interactive session at HPC2N with salloc, UPPMAX interactive. Follow the same procedure as usual by loading the Python module and other prerequisites. And good to know is that CPU hours are more effectively used in batch jobs, because when the job starts, your script will start to run. And it will do that as effectively as the script has been written, basically. So you will use the resources as it is. But if you're using interactive, that will be for testing and developing. But then don't book too many cores or nodes and try to be effective when the session is going, because then you book, if you book maybe 10 hours and you use 4 cores, that will be 4 CPU hours, 40. And if you then just sit and work with your code and run it maybe only 20% of the time, you will just be 20% effective for what you have booked. So of course you should use the interactive for developing, and so, but try to be smart in how you use the resources. Maybe you have to book several cores to test your parallelizing, which we will talk about next session. So then it's needed, of course, but be smart here.